This is the voice of Killer Cross, and right about now, we are about to take it to the max.
This is the pretty badass Kelly Klein telling you to turn it to 11 and take it to the max.
Hey everybody, it's the interview queen Alicia Atute here, and you are currently listening to the Max Wrestling Podcast. It's time to take it to the max.
What's up, everybody? This is AJ Kirsch, one half of the MLW commentary team, and you're listening to the Max Wrestling Podcast. It's time to take it to the max.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Madhouse.
Hey, this is the charismatic enigma, Jeff Hardy. Welcome to the Madhouse.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Max Wrestling in the Hot Seat. I am your host, Mike Larkin, and joining me for this edition is, man, she made her debut at Promo Mania 5 in the Iron Bank Challenge against yours truly and the Phoenix. She has a victory over the Phoenix in that bout and gets to the final against me for the Iron Bank Contract 2020, and she is one of the participants in the Knowledge Championship bout at Max Wrestling's annual event, Trivia Takeover. Moses Marquez will be defending the Knowledge Championship against two-time Knowledge Champion Kenny Killer, former Knowledge Champion and Iron Bank winner, and Travis the Walker Anderson, and my guest today, Travis the Walker Anderson, former promo champion, might I add you, and my guest today, the host of a Wrestling Gal podcast, Let's Chat with Ella J. Hello, Ella, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm good. I just had to pump you up, pump it up like Joe Budden, give you that great intro that you deserve. Man, we're about to have some fun today on In the Hot Seat. I appreciate your time as always.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Hey, man, I got to say this about you. First and foremost, how you feeling? Because in your debut, Iron Bank, on the kickoff of Promo Mania, you're in the Iron Bank. You and I were talking. We're going to talk about this situation here, people, because this girl's going to be taking some quizzes. She's like, oh, I don't know about these. You know a lot. You're smart. You got that brain. Insane in the membrane, Ella J. But I digress. I got to ask you something, man. First and foremost, Promo Mania, making your debut, Iron Bank. Your thoughts?
It was so much fun. I was really nervous, as me and you had discussed privately. I was so nervous, but it was really, really fun.
And that's the thing about it, too, is how many quizzes did you take that day, by the way, or beforehand?
At least 4, I believe. I remember 3 of them, but I took quite a few.
You know what it is, too, and I got to say this about you, because your Twitter, at a Wrestling Gal, and Ella J, which we'll promote at the end, but you provide some great GIFs, you provide some fun with your overall sassiness, that I dare I say, because you got that sass, you got class but not ass, to quote Todd Chrisley of Chrisley Knows Best on the USA Network. I got to say this to you, Miss Ella J. You put the GIF out, you're like studying, going through the books. I know what you were doing. I know what you were doing. You were getting ready. You were getting set for the Iron Bank.
That's right, and I knew you would see that, so...
Oh, man, I about died. Here's the thing, man. We follow each other. We shoot the breeze. We chat like you and I do. And I'm going through my newsfeed on Twitter. Then I see that GIF, and I'm like, oh, man. She's getting prepared. And that's the thing. But here's the thing, that I don't underestimate my opponents. I don't even underestimate Travis, because I'll be honest with you. Travis the Walker Anderson says he's just in it for fun. That dude's a smart SOB. He knew about James Storm, then a lot of us didn't. And one of the TNA questions that we had back at the 5th anniversary show. So, I mean, it's understandable, because each and every one has that shot. We have former promo champions, we have knowledge champions, and we have yourself, Ella J, in the mix. So I got to ask you, are you excited for Trivia Takeover June 11th? You are in the Knowledge Championship bout.
Of course, I'm excited. I feel definitely more relieved and ready, and well, I will be ready, more ready. At least I know what to expect, so I'm really, really excited this time.
All right. Well, as we are recording this, it is Sunday night, May 3rd, 2020. And Mr. Moses Marquez, the current reigning Knowledge Champion, has just surpassed 100 days as a Knowledge Champion. And I got to say this about you. There's a lot of stuff riding on the line here in the Knowledge title bout, because if Phoenix wins, he will become the, well, third as of right now, person to hold the Knowledge Championship twice, and trying to redo his first run at ending at about 34, 35 days. Then we have Kenny Killer, who was the inaugural Knowledge Champion, who won it at Trivia Takeover back in 2016, and Kenny has the chance to become a 3-time Knowledge Champion. Then we got Travis the Walker Anderson, former Promo Champion, has a chance to go into my footsteps and aim towards the Triple Crown Champion. And then we have you, which you, Miss LJ, you're the one making the history in this one. One of the ones that making the history because you were the youngest competitor to challenge for the Knowledge Championship. And you have the chance to become the first ever female Knowledge Champion in Max Wrestling history.
Well, yeah, you call me the baby, so yeah, I gotta make history, right?
She's just a baby. She's just a baby. But no, I mean, besides the fact that you're just a baby, it's one of those things where I can appreciate the youth and I can appreciate the knowledge that you have and when you got into professional wrestling, which we'll talk about in this forum. But for you, you got a lot of people riding on you. I was talking to Amir Blackbane Costello, who right now is the #1 contender for the promo title and the current promo champion amongst herself, that being the Demoness. The Demoness, and a lot of us want to see something new. We want to see a change in the card because Kenny's been there, Phoenix has been there, Travis the Walker Anderson is what it is. But LJ, it's one of those things where we want to see a female knowledge champion, a female promo champion at the same time. We got the light that is you, the wrestling gal, and then we got that demoness come to caress. She'll take your soul. She'll put you in a hole. A lot of darkness surrounding that, man. So that's a hell of a duo.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's going into this, and I got to say this as well. I'm very happy to have you part of Max Wrestling with these upcoming events. I know Daz is thrilled, and each and everybody in the promo league and everybody that has enjoyed and supported this show. But I got to say this to you, Miss Ella J. One of the things I got to say first and foremost as well is thank you, because one of the bouts at Promo Mania was yours truly taking on the mysterious shape, which thank you for kicking ass in my promo.
Thank you for asking me to be a part, and I saw a lot of familiar people in there too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got to see LFL All-Star, who has been on your show, LFC Podcast, LFC Prospect, Ty Emery. We got my boy Stevie Nicks, Steve Nicafor, my best friend in there, Travis the Walker Anderson, the Demoness, Robert Davis. Oh, my goodness. We had so many people, Amir Blackbane Costello. It made for a great little mini cult. It made for the darkness. It made for me getting back into my groove, into my stride, and the promo game, if you will. So I got to ask you your thoughts, how everything came out with the Shapes promo and my promo and the 11 minutes that you watched.
Well, firstly, this is my first time being informed that I'm officially a part of your cult, so thank you for including me.
It's like a mini cult, you know what I'm saying? You know, you could be the cult of personality. You could do what you want. You know what I'm saying? Look into my eyes. What do you see? That is Mike Larkin, Bay, hey, B. I just switched the lyrics on that, but I digress. No, it's a little mini interaction. I got to say this. The people are supporting. I got my supporters. I got my people, and I love each and every one of my people. So thank you. I'm flipping the script on you. Flip the script, rewind the tape. L and J. Yes, mini cult indeed. But first and foremost, go ahead. I'm digress. I'm acting a fool. I'm rambling. So go ahead. Tell us what you thought about the Shape versus yours truly and the overall presentation of that bout.
Well, it was also fun to see a new, meaner Mike Larkin, since I know you used to say no more, like no more Mr. Nice Larkin. And it honestly, well, first of all, when that knock happened on that door, like I told you before we started this, I thought it was like in my room that I am through my headphones as I was listening. It scared me so much, and I jumped out of my seat literally. And it was just a very new, dark, edgy side of you that I loved seeing. And the Shape was also his background music was really, really like suspenseful. And it's great to see a new voice. And I know he was talking about fulfilling his destiny, but I think you kind of are fulfilling your new destiny of being a meaner, darker Mike Larkin.
Well, thank you very much. And you got to give it out to Ascender. Lost Boys Don't Cry for Nothing. Yes, the Shapes music. I love his music. And I also got to say this too. That's what's great about the presentation, because we're like what you see on TV. You get to have fun with it from a fan perspective. You get the entrances, you get the graphics. And mine, I took it back to like 0405. I used some crossfade So Far Away as my theme. Like for me, I was so happy and I was invested into doing that. And I'll be honest with you, one of the longest reigning promo champions is yours truly here. So I get to redeem myself. You know what I'm saying? Travis the Walker Anderson and I, Travis being the former promo champion, lost to the Demoness, which we'll get to in a second. I look at Travis and I got to say something right now. One of the most persistent and one of the most hardworking dudes and putting a lot of work into the promos. For you, watching Travis the Walker Anderson in his own face paint in his own right, taking on the Demoness in her little torture chamber and didn't get a chance to use the axe. What did you think of that presentation?
The torture chamber was scary. She was talking about dragging his dead body into the torture chamber, and she like you, she's very dark and very suspenseful, and it like actually draws the viewer in. And Oh, she scares me, but that means she's doing her job right. And then at the end with Travis saying that the one thing that she will never have was his family. That's the one thing she'll never take from him. That was very cool turn of events, turning from really dark to like the real Travis the Walker Anderson. So it was good to see both sides.
Oh, agreed. And I think with that is what's great is, like, for instance, a lot of us do like we're goofballs at heart. We like to have fun and be silly,
Hmm.
but it really is like a full circle where it's like you go from dark to light or light to dark. So we really get to express our artistic expressions. And I was really happy with how Promo Mania and all these last events have been going off with each and everybody involved. Now I got to ask you, because here's the thing: the Phoenix, one of your opponents for the Knowledge Championship, the Phoenix, when we used to do Max Wrestling back in the day, we used to do a lot of audio promos because every time we would lose a trivia challenge, you'd have to do a promo.
Yeah.
Phoenix has done a lot of audio promos. Phoenix's first video promo came in the form against Travis the Walker Anderson, and we
Ooh.
got to see Phoenix dressed like Finn Balor, you know, the demon of the Welsh Valleys. I'll
Hmm.
show you more of this later, but it's on the Max Wrestling YouTube page. But what it's cool, and I got to ask you, man, because, man, we got to see you do madness and do your little evil laugh, which I thought was great because you were teasing me. No, here's the thing, people, and this is why I love this girl. She's like, you know, my evil laugh sucks. No, it did not. That was good. Good. It's what I needed. And I loved your energy behind that evil laugh. So, Ella J, I got to ask you, is that something you want to pursue? We got this promo league going. I'm a judge alongside Daniel Crimmins. So is that something you want to do? Get yourself on the video. Look at me rocking out. I'm on the video. System of a Down with Danny and Lisa. I mean, come on now, LJ.
Oh Lord, this is peer pressure, guys. Maybe one day. I don't think I can live up to you guys though, but just have to be more comfortable with being behind the camera. Like you said, you started out doing audio. I could definitely work with that, but yeah. Oh gosh, I wouldn't even know what character to develop. I think it's something I would consider for sure. I just have to actually sit down and think about it creatively.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. One of the most creative people is coming up this week, and now I gave Elle a little bit of sample, and a lot of people will see the sample. I just got to wait for Travis's promo to do the official judging once it all airs. Man, we got Brittany Savage in the promo league, and
Yes.
I'm not going to spoil it, but man, Travis the Walker Anderson is in for something. Now, I showed this to sample of you because you've seen her promos from her days with
Yes, I
AJ.
have.
What did you think?
Brittany absolutely killed it. And that is all I will say before it comes out.
Yeah, man, you guys are gonna really enjoy what Brittany Savage is doing. And I said this to the guys, and a lot of us are saying, shout out to Robert Davis, because I think we're also trying to realize, like, guys, we're all fans and we love professional wrestling. We respect the art form that is professional wrestling. But you got a girl here who has been in the business, wrestled the many of greats, from Beth Phoenix, from AJ Lee being in the ring with her, Jillian Hall. We're talking about Mercedes.
Mercedes Martinez.
Yes, Mercedes Martinez. So she's been around the way like every day. So I mean, she knows the business and she knows how to work it.
Absolutely.
So people look out for Brittany Savage's promo against Travis the Walker Anderson coming up this week on Max Wrestling. But man, talking about Max Wrestling, there's another podcast out there. It's called the Wrestling Gal Podcast. You are the host. I got to say this, man. Each and every episode, I mean, you've only been doing this for a short time, but for those that are unfamiliar, talk about coming up with the Wrestling Gal Podcast because, man, you've been killing it. I believe you started in the summer of last year, and it's just been taking
Yes.
off ever since. You've got some great guests, great topics, great interviews. Talk about a Wrestling Gal Podcast.
Oh gosh, yeah. I've been doing a lot more lately since this quarantine deal, and I've been a lot more motivated. Like I was telling you, like April, I had like 16 interviews in 18 days, and it was just really fun. It was like an escape for me, and I've just been divulging my free time in that like completely, and it's been really fun.
What's great about it too is for me, like we were talking about, like I do obviously beauty, strength, and dominance for LFC, very female empowering. But for you, you're a wrestling gal and you're influencing and pretty much inspiring a lot of people from the female perspective to get professional wrestling out there from the women's side of things. But
Hmm.
here's the thing: what's interesting about it is that, and what's unique about yourself, not a lot of people have these kind of podcasts where it's a woman and it's very female oriented talking about, you know, the sport. You see it a lot from the male perspective. So for you, you're kind of revolutionizing in a way and taking over the game.
Wow, that's like a huge compliment. Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, I mean, not to my knowledge. And I mean, I look at it like this. I've not seen one like there'll be a guy and maybe like a female on it, but it's not like a solely female type of thing. And I'll say this, I'll give her credit, Miss Moni Lynn. Moni Lynn had the Wrestling Nerd Chick podcast for a little bit on RWT, Raw Wrestling Talk. But for me, you have that thing, you got the music, you got everything down pat, you got everything from topics to guests, and it really encompasses for a fun time. And I mean, I always tell you this, like a lot of your shows are like 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes that's almost 40. But for me, I look at it like this: no matter what time you have into that show, you make the most of it and you have a fun time all in all.
Absolutely. And I know you said that you said that there are only a few female-oriented podcasts. I actually follow three really great ones.
Yeah.
Those Wrestling Girls, Deadass Girls podcast, and Wrestling Wind Down. They're really cool because all the hosts are female as well, and it's really cool. They do more of, well, it depends. Like those Wrestling Girls, they do like spotlight shows and like really in-depth like wrestling talk. And the other two are really great as well. But those are a couple of other of my favorite female-oriented wrestling podcasts.
Man, I gotta add a couple more podcasts to my playlist now that you mentioned it. That's cool. No, you see, that's what I like about it. Because I'll be honest with you, from the male perspective, I'm a guy here, get the male point of view. It's great to hear guys talk about wrestling, but I mean, for us as guys, I mean, females. All right, you know what it is too. I'm gonna say this because it's like, when you're in high school and when you go through college and you're getting out into the dating world. A lot of girls that you tell them that you like wrestling, they kind of like turn the other way. But
Yep.
it's see, all right, now see, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I like that. Yep, that was a defiant yep. See, Ella J knows what I'm talking about. So it's one of those things where when you find a girl that likes professional wrestling and that is into the similar interests like that, because it's rare that you find a lot of girls that are in professional wrestling. And I know you've discussed this with Jess, who's been on your show, who's an absolutely amazing
Yes.
being as well. But it's one of those things where you're as a kid, you don't want to admit to the fact that you like professional wrestling. Now, for me, I had no problem with that because I didn't give a fuck. And here's the thing. I was bullied so much. I was bullied just because I would eat bologna sandwiches and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It's like, God damn it. I love sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? Bullying for my sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Horrible people. Anyway, I digress. So it's one of those things where it's like when you get bullied and just teased so much, it's like you don't even care. It's like you have that defining moment when you look into the mirror and it's like, you know what? I'm happy with who I am. You know what I'm saying? I think you could associate with this because, I mean, when people look at you for professional wrestling from the female standpoint, they'll roll your eyes. They don't get it. I mean, it happens to all of us. But it's like, I think for what you're doing, you're giving a great perspective for everybody.
Well, yeah, like you said, like I was like a closeted fan, as me and Jess talked about for our episode we did together. We didn't really go in depth, but yeah, I found one friend who was luckily into wrestling, but then the rest I would just like keep it a secret. Or when I would mention it to a couple of my guy friends, he'd be like, "Oh, it's fake." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like it's not because people are getting actually injured and it's a real sport." But I digress too.
All right. Well, no, I think what you said about it is true because I'll be honest with you. If anybody wants to question the business, and you actually made a nice segue because this is wrestling related, check out Dark Side of the Ring with Dr. D.
Yes.
Schultz. See, did you
hmm
watch it?
I watched the Benoit episode. Yes.
Okay, so watch the Dr. D. David Schultz because that's the one where he slapped John Stossel and the whole thing where he got blackballed from the business because John Stossel said, "Well, I think it's fake," and then really he goes, "That's an open hand slap. Is that fake?" One of the most iconic moments in news history from a journalist perspective, and John Stossel being the dickhead that he is. Now I digress. It's one of those things where the dark side of the ring gives you a great perspective on behind the scenes reality that is professional wrestling. And I got to ask you, since we're on topic, what do you think of the Benoit one?
I was very emotionally invested into it, especially like seeing people who were actually like involved in the storyline, like Javo, Chris Jericho, Vicky, and like it kind of opened your eyes like this is like reality. And like they played like actual like audio clips of the phone call when they made the wellness check phone call to his house, and like it's just crazy. But then I was scrolling through the rest of the episodes that I haven't gotten a chance to watch yet, but I was very eye-opening.
For me, I look at it like this too because 2007, it was one of those things, and I actually had this moment. I still talk to him to today. That my dude John Kinnearman, who I graduated with, right? I was in social studies class, Mr. Faulkman, second period, right? Global history, if you will. 2007, 15 years old, these types of high school. We'll be here all day. It's like this and like that and like this but I digress. We're talking about 2007. I'm a freshman in high school, And we were talking about wrestling, and Mike and John was asking me, I'm like, dude, I want to talk about it. I'm really not kind of watching it right now. He goes, you're not watching wrestling? And I was just like, it's one of those things, man. When the Benoit thing happened, and I saw it on the news, and what's actually very interesting and is my dad was actually in Atlanta around that time doing some work because of his job where he's a manager and he has to do some traveling and look at stores, right? So my dad was in Atlanta. He calls me up and he's like, what the hell happened? And I'm like, I don't know. Apparently Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy and his son Daniel passed away. And for me, I was also kind of like, ugh, with it because here's why I was up. Because remind you, this was around the time when Vince McMahon, the limo blew up and Vince McMahon's character was dead. So I'm like, oh, come on. Because I hated the angle so much. But then this is real life right here. They do the tribute show. Then, of course, you find out the events that happen afterwards. And it's like, now for me, I'm going to say this right now, watching it, I think it's a case of Eddie Guerrero's passing really, destroyed him inside and out. And for me, I think it's also a case of concussions and, again, having the brain of an 83-year-old man or what have you with Alzheimer's. So I think it has to do with CTE and pretty much just the fact that he snapped it. He had a nervous breakdown after Eddie Guerrero's passing. So that's what I attribute to it. What do you think? Because over the years, it's really been about like, oh, they say steroids and roid rage. For me, that doesn't seem like roid rage to me. Go ahead.
I feel like, yeah, like you said, it's definitely a combination of the two. Like after Eddie, like as Javo described it, like after Eddie passed, like Chris wasn't the same. He was like distancing himself from everybody and like his whole attitude, like it was definitely like a depression or some altered state of mind. And then it could have been a combination of like CTE or it could have been like steroids. I feel like it's a combination, but we're never going to know the real answer, you know?
True. And that's the thing, too, because like, and this actually segues because one of your favorite wrestlers is Kurt Angle, and him and Kurt Angle had some of the best matches ever. Royal Rumble 2003, WrestleMania 17, Backlash
Yes.
2001, Judgment Day 2001, and as a tag team, as a SmackDown tag team champion. So, yeah, man, it's a representation of the ruthless aggression era and what would go on to be. But I got to ask you this, man, because you're such a big Kurt Angle fan, and this is why I love you. Because people, if you remember from Iron Bank, there was Survivor Series 1999, and Phoenix and his I'm not going to say selective memory because sometimes Phoenix just kind of has a little slip of the tongue. And no, Ella, we were not giving you this. And actually, with the Royal Rumble question, which you laughed at, no, this is how it was asked. You know what I'm saying, which was funny because we had a discussion about that. He's like, "Did you tell him to ask a question about Royal Rumble?" I'm like, no, I didn't even ask the questions. I'm competing. But it's one of those things where, and we'll talk about Royal Rumble later. It's one of those things where like Kurt Angle versus Sean Stasiak, you get that on the second match, right? And he's just like kind of slipping about it. And I teased him all that because I'm like, dude, she was 2, and what do you got to say about that? You know what I'm saying? But I digress because you're just a baby, and I had to get that in there. But LJ, when it comes to Kurt Angle, the Sean Stasiak debut, the match with Steve Blackman at Armageddon '99, King of the Ring, WWF Championships, Intercontinental, European Tag Team, the Hall of Famer that is Kurt Angle. What's one of the moments that really made you become a Kurt Angle fan?
So I actually started becoming a fan of Kurt Angle during his time of TNA because so like the first people, obviously I saw Jeff's debut in TNA. That was actually the only second episode I had ever started watching. And then Kurt came along and then like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, all of that. I actually became a fan of Kurt Angle through TNA. And then I met him a couple of years later, and then I went back and watched all his stuff back in WWF and WWE, obviously. And he's just so good.
He is, and for me, like you talk about like the TNA run, and 2006. I remember when he was there and he beat Samoa Joe, ending his undefeated streak. The matches with Cage, Scott Steiner. Will be here all day. There were so many great matches he had with Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles. I mean, the list goes on and on. But for me, I loved his run there. One of the main things that really made me enjoy TNA, like him with all the titles and him going against Black Machismo, Jay Lethal. Like,
Yes.
see, all right, now Kurt Angle. I got to say this: going back to WWE, being in the Hall of Fame, the GM run, and then obviously the matches with Triple H, Ronda, and Stephanie, and the whole nine involved with that, and being a member of the Shield, for God's sake, for an honorary member for one night, and the Baron Corbin retirement. I got to ask you, early WWF and then coming back to WWE and the TNA run, which would you say was Kurt's best run? A lot of people say TNA because he did get to do a lot more in TNA. But for you, what was what's your favorite one for Kurt Angle's career? Like his whole career, would you say more TNA stuff or more WWE stuff?
I would say a combination. I feel like his earlier stuff, like this during the era with like Stone Cold, was like
Yes.
kind he was over as a comedy character, but also he could always put on great matches like at Mania with Brock and all that. But his TNA run was awesome as well because I got to see him work alongside a bunch of my favorites. So I really can't choose. I think his early WWF days or his TNA run are probably my favorites of his.
I mean, for me, like you were talking about, like Jeff Hardy is another one of your favorites that's in there.
Yes.
Like, all right, now more okay. Now I know it's a mixture of both, but I'm just gonna say this right now. When you look at Jeff Hardy in TNA, like the year that you saw him was what 2010 when he came back for that second.
Yes.
Okay,
Literally, yeah, 2010.
so I first saw Jeff in TNA in 2004, and this actually is how I got
Hmm.
to TNA. My dad's like, Jeff Hardy's on a show tonight. It's $10 and it's on pay per view. It's NWA TNA, and I said, oh hell yeah, I want to see me some Jeff Hardy. So Jeff Hardy fought AJ Styles for the X Division Championship on the second year anniversary of the TNA show on Wednesday nights. And then I was hooked from TNA, and I mean, watching him go against AJ Styles, Rob Van Dam, Raven, Abyss. I mean, the list goes on and on. From Austin Aries, like he had so many great matchups in Impact, and of course the Broken Matt stuff, the Broken Hardys, and
Hmm.
everything involved encompassed with that. For me, I love Jeff Hardy, WWE, and TNA. Like, what's great about Jeff Hardy, his character, is he can, make you be invested, make you in capturing great moments, whether it be ladder matches, TLC, everything that you did with Jeff Hardy and everything that you saw with Jeff Hardy was absolutely astonishing, and he took your breath away. So I got to ask you, when it comes to Jeff Hardy, uh, okay, when it comes to Jeff Hardy and the Hardy Boys and Matt Hardy, I got to ask you, are you looking forward to seeing kind of what we're doing now? Because they've teased, I know you've seen on Twitter, Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus looks to be happening, going towards Money in the Bank is what they're leading to, and getting to see the stories of the redemption, the comeback, and a lot of the stuff that we saw in WWE 24. And Matt is now in AEW doing his thing as Damascus, Le Hole of As, with Chris Jericho in the inner circle. What are your thoughts about how the Hardy Boys are kind of like Matt's in AEW, Jeff's doing his thing on SmackDown? What do you think about how their career directions are going?
I just hope that there is an actual payoff for the Jeff and Sheamus storyline because ever since they've brought Sheamus back, they've made him look so strong. And but they have to make Jeff look strong during his redemption since they're making all these like promo videos and everything. I just hope that there is a big payoff for it. I know it'll be a great storyline and a great feud because they're both great workers, but I just hope that there is a big storyline or a big at least a big investment for a long-term storyline because they can't make one look weaker than the other when they are both like building both of them up, if that makes sense.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you 100% on this. And for me, I'm going to say this to you right now. I love, you know me, I've always used the word with you, continuity. Like, I love continuity in professional wrestling because if you remember when Sheamus and Cesaro were going against the Hardys for the tag title, Sheamus is the
Yes,
one who knocked out Jeff Hardy's tooth.
that's right.
So,
That,
the
that's.
continuity.
I feel like sometimes though it's accidental or coincidence with this company, but
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing, and that's why I popped so huge because we were talking about continuity. Like I was watching NXT, and we get Charlotte Flair against Mia Yim, and Mia Yim that was her tryout match back in 2014. So I love how that they brought that full circle and how it all kind of came together.
That's right. And then this is a really random, but I forget what year it was. It was when this is years ago, Randy Orton was feuding with CM Punk, and their reasoning behind that was because from 2007 or 2008, Randy punted CM Punk, and then that's why they feuded, and Punk was getting his revenge during that time, like 5 years later. Like, okay.
Oh yeah, you have 2011 Randy Orton and CM Punk at WrestleMania 27. That's right. Yeah, 28 was Kane, 27 was Punk. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about Randy Orton in a second too. Randy Orton is a big part of the Ella J wrestling fandom story here, but I digress. Randy Orton, Unforgiven 2008. Yes, he punted CM Punk along with Legacy, attacking. I believe it was Manu, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase all attacking CM Punk, taking him out of the championship scramble match. You are correct.
Yes.
You see, and you question yourself about not knowing professional wrestling. See, you're
No,
just
listen, like I told you the other day, my favorites, I know them pretty well. Or at least because of their DVDs and like I watch all these interviews and stuff. I know them. Everything else, I'm like, I don't know. It's random.
Well, I can appreciate that knowledge too, because again, and I'm not going to use the term "she's just a baby," but you're a youngin. I'm going to switch it up. You're a youngin. So the youngins that are yourself and many of the newer generation, we get the access to the WWE Network, and we get the access to DVDs and documentaries that really show the case of the careers, and you get to learn a little something about them.
Well, yeah, the network is a great place. I've gone back and watched not a lot, but during my free time, I like to go back and watch Raws from random years. Like a couple months ago, I was on like a 2002, 2003 kick, and I watched a bunch of those.
Oh God, yes, get for that. I'll be honest with you, folks, and I was discussing this with a lot of my people. So one of my first Raws I went to in 2002 was the one where Eric Bischoff became the GM, and then
Yes.
it was at the Raw after SummerSlam '02 where Triple H and The Undertaker fought in the main event and Kane returned. Then I was at Survivor Series '02 where Shawn Michaels won the
Oh my gosh.
chamber match. Oh, yeah, this
I'm
is
jealous. Oh my
okay.
gosh.
I'm just saying these are important moments, and people, even if you're not there, it's historical. But take this ride with me here, Miss Ella J. Then we get to 2003, and this is what pops me. So if you watch the June 23rd episode where Kane unmasked and he chokeslams Rob Van Dam,
Hmm.
a little young 11-year-old Mike Larkin in his red shirt sitting there right in the front row with his mommy screaming his head off.
Oh, those are the best moments, though. I really wish I was older so I could experience some of the older moments. Oh man.
Oh, I mean, well, you've been to a lot of great live events, and you've got to see some of
Yes,
your favorites like Miz, John Morrison, Mickey James, Dolph Ziggler. I mean, we'll be out there. You got to see them live and in color.
that is true. And I have one time been on a pay-per-view promo for a poster I made. So for SummerSlam a couple years ago.
See, don't even worry about it, man. Don't even worry about the youth. Don't even worry about the age, man. Because, like I said, you wear something special. You got that spark about you. And I got to say this about you, Miss Ella J. Like, well, I'm kind of curious now because you piqued my interest with the Ruthless Aggression era. Why Random Ross from 2002, 2003? What made you get on the kick?
My friend who's like one of my best friends was watching them. She told me she was watching them that day too, and I'm like, "Oh, I should do that too." And then because I was watching Random Royal Rumbles that day anyway, and I rewatched the 2002 one with Triple H, so I was like, "I'm just gonna start here and start watching random episodes."
Now, you see, again, the network and its great usage being used right here. But for me, you were talking about Randy Orton being one of your favorites, which we're going to get to right now. Me, Randy Orton, watching him in 2002. For me, I didn't start watching professional wrestling in 2002 until like June or July. So one of my favorite moments from that is, I don't know if you watched this one, The Undertaker and Jeff Hardy in the ladder match for the undisputed title on Raw.
Yes, I actually have seen that.
Love that match. The commentary, climb the ladder, kid, make yourself famous, Jim Ross. Like the whole entire. Here's the funny thing about that. Like, do you remember actually how the storyline came into fruition before the match?
No.
Okay, so this will make you laugh.
Oh
So it all
gosh.
started because The Undertaker wrestled Tommy Dreamer on Raw. Now, mind you, people, Tommy Dreamer, when he was on Raw at that time, he was doing like the jackass stunts. Like he was brushing his dog's teeth and brushing the same with the same toothbrush. And he was just, doing a lot of sick and disgusting crap. So this particular episode, he drank The Undertaker's tobacco spit. And he wound up puking. And then Jeff Hardy being like, to Matt, we're hypocrites. We're not extreme. We don't live for the moment, man. We're hypocrites. And Matt Hardy's like, where are you going with this? You'll see what I mean. So Jeff Hardy comes out and drop kicks the Undertaker in Tommy Dreamer's vomit. And that's what led to one of the best.
Ew.
And, and that's what led to one of the best ladder
Oh,
matches on
Jeff.
the Raw. Yeah, see?
Good old Jeff.
Yes. So that's what it started, drop kicking into the vomit. Isn't it amazing just to see how it goes from that gross moment to one of the best matches in ladder match history?
Exactly.
So anyway, grossness aside for the young here, we're talking about Randy Orton. So I started watching around that particular time, and Randy Orton obviously taking on Hardcore Holly, being on SmackDown, gets drafted to Raw, wrestles Lance Storm and Christian, gets injured, the RNN news, and then he comes back, and then we have Evolution, and then off to the races we go. So for me, what year did you start watching Randy Orton? Because Randy Orton has had so many great moments with the RKO, with the Legend Killer, with the Viper, Apex Predator, whatever you want to define it, even with the Wyatt family. When did you start watching Randy Orton?
Well, I've told this story on my podcast. I started watching Randy at my first ever live event during his legacy time. I didn't like him, obviously, because you keep in mind, like, I didn't like any of the heels at that time because I was like 11 or 12. Um, but at my first live event, it was Legacy versus DX and Kofi Kingston. And it was a great six-man tag, and DX's hijinks. So at my first ever live event, you have DX pantsing Randy Orton and Ted DiBiase. So my first introduction to Randy Orton was seeing his bare butt. Um, and then the next year I started liking him. Like his whole 2009, 2010 like heel run was just so good. And he was actually the first heel I started genuinely liking. And then Evolution of a Predator came out, I believe 2011.
Yep.
And so watching that just like solidified my like seeing like his whole story, like when his 2003, 2004, 2005, when he was just a young kid, and like his cocky attitude, and seeing how he's transformed and matured himself really solidified like my status like as respect for him. So
All right. So Randy Orton's butt is the
that
antithesis.
was my literal first impression of Randy Orton.
And I got to
Seeing
say,
him live.
I gotta say this. I gotta give a shout out to Samira as well, because when I had Samira on the mic with Mike, Samira loves RKO's. You see, I can respect that too, because Randy Orton is one of the most popular wrestlers for the ladies, because he's a good-looking cat, and I can admit that. But for me, I think just I love you and Samira to death, but the passion that you have for the Viper, the Apex Predator, however you want to talk about him, Randall Keith Orton. I love that, man. And here's the thing: like you talk about his bottom, it's one of those things where. This is why it's funny, because it's one of those things where I remember, I think I was I forgot what show it was. I think it was one where Shawn Michaels got pantsed, because that's happened. There's been a full
I
moon.
love Shawn.
We're going to talk about Shawn Michaels. So my mother was a huge Shawn Michaels fan at the time. Like I was there for the comeback when he beat Triple H at SummerSlam, one of the best matches. And we go to Survivor Series, and we were like, and like we talked about, we were just so enthralled because he won the first ever Elimination Chamber. And mind you, like you, because like again, being young, I was 4 when he beat Bret Hart for the title in '96.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't see '90s Shawn Michaels, like the prime Shawn Michaels. And I'll say this right now to you, because we're both youngins in a way. 1997, you were born, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you were just you were just a baby when Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, the Montreal Screwjob happened.
I was 3 weeks old.
See? So okay, so you're 3 weeks old when the screw job around the world was happening. So you were 3 years old. It's one of those things where like you're young and you didn't appreciate Shawn Michaels 90s. See, just like you, because I remember watching Shawn Michaels from the Vault, which came out in 2003, like watching the old school Shawn Michaels matches and the Boyhood Dream DVD and then Heartbreak and Triumph later on. Like I knew mostly, 2002 onward with Shawn Michaels, right? Because I never got to see the Michaels Vader match, the Michaels British Bulldog, Bret Hart, Diesel. Will be here all day. Razor Ramon, the ladder match from WrestleMania 10. So I had to go back and watch that. So you see, there's a lot of similarities with us, growing up in the 90s, man.
Well, I didn't really grow up in the 90s, but yeah.
Well, you were born in the 90s, I'm just saying. I'm not trying to dish you, man. You late bloomer. I'm just trying to say we're both born in the 90s. So, hey, I digress. But back to the awesomeness that is yourself, Ella J. We're talking about Randy Orton. We're talking about Shawn Michaels, and you love DX. Now, you said perfectly right there, the DX hijinks.
Yes. You don't understand how much I love DX, okay?
Okay, all right. We're You're making me laugh. The DX hijinks and how much you love DX. What year did you... No, they came back in 2006. What is it about D-Generation X, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels?
So yeah, when I first started watching wrestling was when DX would do like these Christmas commercials, and then later on I went back. A couple years ago I purchased their 2006 run. They have a whole DVD dedicated to it, so I went back and watched that, and then watched back a lot of their 97, 98 stuff. And they are just so uncensored and so funny. And then like I am so grateful that I like got into wrestling during Shawn's last run, and I was actually able to see them as a tag team while they were champions. And I'm so grateful like I got into it right before Shawn retired. Like I can't even imagine like not being a part of that. And DX are just so legendary. Like I don't know how anyone can like refute that. I can't explain it. They're just so charismatic and so humorous, and like they get the crowd like involved in everything, and like everything they do is just gold.
See, I can 100% agree with that. From the time with China and the New Age Outlaws, and then the mistletoe around Christmas time,
Mhm.
it's just pantsing and waving a wedgie to Michael Cole, making fun of Sergeant Slaughter, and each and every one that
And
got.
Jonathan Coachman. Oh, their 2006 run, I think, is my favorite, though. Oh,
Oh
that was a
yes,
good one.
when they spray painted DX on Coach's dairy.
Yes.
So it's what. And okay, I'm going to ask you this: what about when Hornswoggle was the mascot?
That was that was a good run too. So that was like 2008. Yeah, with the whole Cena. Yeah, that was 2000. That was late 2008 too. Like right after or right before their triple threat match with Cena at Survivor Series.
Yep. Oh,
Um,
oh no.
those segments, yeah, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Those segments with Cena were really funny too. And then Little People's Court after that whole well, I love how they were like, you can be our mascot, and then they pedigree him, and then the next week is like Little People's Court.
You see, you're just bringing it back to 11 years ago. Now, all right, I'm going to say this 11 years ago since you're talking about 2009. I brought this up on the mic with Mike, and I'm going to bring it up here. Drew McIntyre beating John Morrison at TLC 2009 for the Intercontinental title.
Yes. We don't have to talk about it again. But
Hey,
it's okay. Back then, like I said, a lot of my favorites today, like I didn't appreciate when I first like got into wrestling, like Punk and Drew, although Drew did have a great theme song, I will admit that. But like you have to remember, I was like 11 or 12. I didn't appreciate the artistic character that heels can present. That's because John Morrison like was one of my first favorites as well. So I was always gonna root for John. So
so John Morrison's abs and Randy Orton's derriere aside, it's one, it's one of those things where I can respect that because I'll be honest with you, as a teenager, and we all get older and we all get wiser and we all have that representation or that overall respect as we get older with professional wrestling. I mean, look at what we're doing as podcasters. We get to interview a lot of great people in the biz, right?
absolutely.
So it's one of those things where we get to see what they go through and what have you. You know what I'm saying? So it's cool. And then you also, like you mentioned, talking about like your favorites. Like for me, John Morrison. I know. Okay, I'm all right. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Misfits and Mofos or Miz and Morrison? Hey, ho ho. If you had to pick,
Well, I guess I have to say modern day Miz and Morrison because I'm like actually living it, but like they were way ahead of their time with the dirt sheet. I have to say, like they keep saying that that was like the real like YouTube like channel, you know. They were ahead of their time.
oh man, I mean those
Hmm.
early moments when they first started doing it, like when they first put them as a tag team. I remember it was Miz and John Morrison beating Matt Hardy and MVP for the tag titles, and
Yes, that's right.
yes, and MVP turning on Matt Hardy. For me, like I loved their run, but here's what pissed me off because they had Morrison turn on, not Morrison, excuse me, Miz
They had
turn on
Miz
John
turn on
Morrison.
Morrison, yeah.
Thank you. Miz turned on Morrison in 2009 and going into the Bash '09 when the Miz fought John Cena, like I was ready for that because he was dressing like Cena. He was
Hmm.
making fun of John Cena. You know, I'm 1-0, 2-0, what have you. And then you get to the damn match and it's only like 5 minutes. And that pissed me off because he got squashed.
That's right.
But the bright side of that is, and here's what even made me get even more pissed as a youngin' here. John Cena and The Miz happened again the following night on that Raw, right? And it was better than the pay-per-view match. They gave him more time and it was good. I'm like, why couldn't that be the pay-per-view match? But I guess, time restraints, what have you, but still. Again, that's a sour spot on my memory of The Miz during that time period. But
I used to hate the Miz. So like when Miz cashed in on Randy 2010, yeah, 2010, I was at like the height of my like loving Randy Orton. I hated the Miz when I first got in. Like I said, like I
hold on,
didn't appreciate the heels.
hold on. I don't mean to cut you off. Were you the little Miz girl with the face like you? Was that you too?
Yes. No, I hated the I hated the Miz. But I think everyone did at that point. But like you over time you learn to like respect his art and he's like definitely one of the greatest heels ever. But yeah, that was me. I was devastated that night. I I wrote in my diary about it about Randy Orton losing and
Wait a
I
minute.
still have that note. I was so devastated that night.
All right. Now, see, you're piquing my interest here. Okay. You have the diary where you write down about Randy
Yeah.
Orton. Okay. How much of that diary is filled with wrestling related stuff?
All of it. I've posted pictures of it. Like 99% of it is wrestling.
You see, I like you even more for that just because, like, all right, funny little story. Like, I remember when they had like, and this is kind of like a journalistic route in a way, if you want to look at it like this. So I remember when Michael Cole like did a lot of blogs and stuff, and I remember them doing a lot of like rundowns of like shows and stuff. Like I don't know if I still have it, but one of the notebooks I would do like reviews, like they would have the results and stuff. I would do reviews of like Raw and SmackDown. I used to write what I thought about this match on Sunday Night Heat, for God's sake. So see, I can respect that because as a fan, you want to provide your own analysis, and that can lead you to where you are today.
After every live event or wrestling event I would go to, I would write down the results and my own commentary about it, and I still have it. I talked about that in one of my episodes from my first event. For like the first like 7 or 8 events I went to, I would literally record the results and my thoughts on the winners and commentary about it, and I still have that.
See, that's cool. I mean, that's really cool. And it's like, all right, so like I was telling you about, like there's blog stuff like the Cole Report and what they used to
Yes.
like results. All right. Do you remember? I don't know. Okay. Now I'm taking it back for people. This is like '06. So do you remember? And actually '05, '06. Do you remember, or looking back in the archives, WWE.com Unlimited?
Oh, I think vaguely, yes.
For those that don't know, WWE.com Unlimited is you would go to WWE.com during Raw, during commercials, you would go to WWE.com and watch what would happen between the commercials on WWE.com Unlimited.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and I even hate to say taking it back just because it's like, I cannot believe that's already like 14, 15 years ago.
Right?
But anyway, you talk about Miz and Morrison, two of my favorites as well with the tag team. And be honest with you, I love this modded run because it's funny and they're great. And for me, I've always enjoyed John Morrison, whether he was Nitro, Mundo, whatever name you want to call him. He's one of those guys that's just, again, great look, great physique, and he can work his butt off in the parkour style, man.
Very, yeah, absolutely. He's like so unique and he can adapt to any name. He literally has a whole list of names. He's one of those people, he's kind of like Kofi, like you never know what they're gonna do. They're so athletic and so gifted, and it's just so fun to watch them.
Now, all right, one other male I'll mention, then I'll go to a certain female who you have
I
your
feel like I know who this male is going to be.
Dolph Ziggler.
Yes.
All right. Here's the thing about Dolph Ziggler. Like, all right, I remember seeing Dolph Ziggler the first time I saw him under his real name, Nick Nemeth. He was the caddy for Chavo Guerrero's character
Mm-hmm.
Kerwin White back in 2005. Then he was Nikki, obviously with the Spirit
Mm-hmm.
Squad. The debut of Dolph Ziggler, and then from his rise and ascension to Intercontinental, European, tag team, WWE World Heavyweight Championship, the whole nine, and his amazing moments and Money in the Bank. So I got to ask you, where does the Dolph Ziggler love come from? When did you start watching Dolph?
Well, like I said, I started watching wrestling in 2009. SmackDown,
Okay.
Dolph was on. But like I said, a lot of my current favorites today I hated back in the day because he had only been on like a year at that point, and he was like really one of the most hated heels at that point. I think he would tag with Drew a lot and like Matt Hardy and
Yeah,
well, he
that's
would be like against Matt Hardy, but he would tag with Drew a lot and like did that heel era, to like
that's
2009.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I mean, you're
but
bringing it up, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, Ella, but yeah, that's around when he was like they were really starting to like make it.
mhm,
Like he was going against Rey Mysterio for the Intercontinental title.
yes.
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, so I hated, like I said, used to hate a lot of my current favorites because they were heels, and I'm like, ugh, go away. But I feel like I turned a full Dolph fan. So I went to an event in late 2014. It was the day Randy Orton got stretchered out. It was during the whole Authority storyline,
Ah,
and
yes.
Dolph was IC champ, and then Randy went out on some stretcher that night. I think he got what's that finisher? Curb stomped.
Yep.
And so they wrote Randy off to do his movie. But late 2014, like after Dolph got done with that whole AJ Lee storyline and he kind of turned face again and like during that Authority run. So yeah, that's when I became like a solidified Dolph fan, was like right before that Authority storyline.
See, I can appreciate that because that was one of his best runs, like the ladder match with Luke Harper for the
Mhm.
Intercontinental title. Then you get to see what he did as far as. Here's the thing, like I love when they brought the Spirit Squad back and Ken Doane and Kenny.
Oh gosh.
See that popped me because Kenny and Mikey still do some indie work as well, and I love seeing Dolph Ziggler being interacted with two of his legit best friends in real
Mhm.
life, and the feud with the Miz. And I gotta ask you, like I remember seeing him go against Dean Ambrose in 2016 for the
Mhm.
world title. like I was happy to see him get that run and get involved in the mix, and then what he's doing now. And
Funny that you bring that up.
why, go ahead.
So I was at the first SmackDown after the draft, like leading up to SummerSlam. So I was there that night. He won the fatal six-pack challenge to become the number one contender for SummerSlam. That's what you're talking about, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I was there like on the ramp, and then my sign, I had a sign that said it's Dolph's time to shine. And so I still have a video of me after he won. I could not believe it. I was like, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And that moment was just like so surreal because I literally did not think he was going to win. I was prepared for him to lose, but I still had my sign just in case. And I had no idea he was going to win that match. And so I was there when he won that match against all odds. And then my sign made TV and then it made the video package for SummerSlam. And that is like the best moment that I have been to live. And oh, I miss it so much.
See, I love your fandom and your passion in that moment because that's very cool too. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of us, I remember watching that at home. Now, I remember they did something, I think, where he like super kicked him, and I'm like, okay, Dolph wants the title. But you don't think because the way that he was booked and how he was
Hmm.
like, yeah, Dolph Ziggler's not going to win the world title, win the
Yeah.
and then he wins, and it's like, oh, hey. And then we have the match at SummerSlam, and then I mean, it's really cool because he's been like he's kind of flip flopped a little bit with going for
Hmm.
Intercontinental and being in that particular scenario, like him with Drew, him what he's doing now. And I got to ask you, what do you think about Otis getting the girl, getting Mandy Rose, and Dolph Ziggler as a slimy, horrible human being with Sonya Deville? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, firstly, I hate that his first singles match at WrestleMania took 15 years and he lost. But at least if he was going to lose at Mania, at least let him win the Money in the Bank qualifier as some like retribution. So that I'm a little salty about, actually very salty about. But I'm glad he finally had his WrestleMania moment. I'm bad. I feel sad it didn't happen in front of a crowd. But the storyline is intriguing. I don't know where they're going to go like after Money in the Bank if like because Dolph's not in the match with Otis, so I'm interested to see what they're going to do with that. But I feel like every couple of years they always have him involved with a couple of the female superstars, and it's just always funny.
I about damn near spit my water out when she's like, I'm kind of salty. That's funny. But no, I can understand because, I mean, like you mentioned, he's been in like multiple man matches with WrestleMania.
Hmm.
And he never really got that single run. And I'll be honest with you, again, like you mentioned, no crowd. And it's against a tag team wrestler and Otis. I get it. I can see your saltiness.
Well, yeah, at least if he wasn't going to win at Mania in his first singles match, at least let him win the Money in the Bank qualifier, you know?
I get you.
But
But it's different. I mean, well, Dolph Ziggler, former Money in the Bank winner, but we get to see Otis in there, which is pretty cool. And
mhm.
before we even get to Money in the Bank, because there's a lot to talk about. Your saltiness aside, Miss LJ, one of your people that really is an inspiration to you, and I actually got to meet her back in 2007. Such a sweet woman, such an amazing pioneer for women's wrestling. Talk about your love for Mickie James.
Oh, Mickey James. So it's funny that you say that because we're a couple of my friends and I are doing a project on like our favorite women superstar and why they're an inspiration to us. So I made a whole 5 minute video about this. Um, but Mickey James was the first female I ever started watching wrestling with. Like she was the first woman I was ever introduced to on SmackDown in 2009, besides like Lay Cool and Beth and Maria, but she was the first one I gravitated to towards, even considering the whole storyline she was in at that time, like the whole Piggy James storyline.
Oh man.
But I think I was drawn to her because I kind of felt empathetic to her and I could like relate to her character, like in that way that she was being portrayed. And she was just great in the ring too. So I think at first I was kind of drawn to her because I was like empathetic towards her and I was like, I can so relate to this. But then over the years, like she's obviously one of the greatest, and I don't know why I've been drawn to her, but then a couple years after that, she did an interview with Kevin Russo on his podcast, 2015, I believe. And it was the first time she really opened up about a very personal story of hers, which she now has turned into something so like such a great cause with child help and child abuse. And she's turned her like dark childhood and like struggles with like depression and like body insecurity and body issues and that she's turned it into something positive. And I've told her in person so many times that she is like my role model, a big big reason why I've overcome a lot of personal stuff. And she's just a great person, and she's great in the ring, but I love her more for her story, and like her as a person is just so inspirational.
All right. Now, I agree with what you said about that because I've seen a lot of interviews. And all right, now I cut out a little bit and I apologize. Hopefully nobody heard that, but we're all fixed. So I just wanted to comment. Did you say Kevin Russo?
Yeah. Did I get it wrong?
Vince Russo?
Oh my God, Vince Russo. Oh my God, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, it's Vince Russo. Sorry.
Yeah, I was trying not to make any noise as we were talking there because there was a little something, something, and I didn't want to knock my speaker off like I did with Brittany on the other show. So I
You're
was
right,
making
Vince
sure.
Russo.
All right, so Vince Russo, Kevin Russo, whatever his name is, Vince. Okay, wait, no, you're right. I'm only teasing you, but it's one of those things where like you hear her with Vince Russo, or you see what she's done in TNA and WWE wrestling. Like for me, man, again, as being a youngin and being someone who saw her with the Piggy James, I first saw her with Trish Stratus. Obviously, we know the obsessive match with Trish at WrestleMania 22. And I did not, I'll be honest with you, I did not see the early TNA run where she was Alexis Lurie with The Flock and Julio De Niro and CM Punk. But I loved her character, and there was something about her for me, and I think a lot of people drawn her. She's such a great wrestler. She could play that psycho character.
That's right.
Yes.
She always likes to say she's always psycho, but she hides it well.
I love that woman. It's one of those things where, I mean, she's just so talented, such a great person. I'll be honest with you. You and I were talking about this, and I've seen your tweets, and we can discuss this. Like, you were kind of like scared because you and I were talking about this. It's like, God dang, like we have all these cuts coming, and Mickie James hasn't even come back. She's been doing the main event as announcer. I don't want to see Mickie James go either because you and I were having this conversation. I'm like, they better not take her out of this, man. Cost cuts. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. I was like mentally preparing, but then she told me she was safe. But no, so she was supposed to return when I know, so she was supposed to return around like the time my SmackDown was, like right around the Elimination Chamber time, as far as I know. She was like ready to be cleared, and then she was going on TV. This is what I think she told me. And like what she said on her Instagram live, she was like literally ready to be cleared and ready to return. But then this whole thing happened. And so I was very afraid that because she's been out and like she hasn't been on TV because of this quarantine, that they were going to lay her off. So I was very scared.
Whew. Now, for me, I'm going to say this right now. I want to see Mickie James. I don't care if it's SmackDown. I don't care if it's Raw.
It better be SmackDown. Do
Okay.
not put her on Raw. Nope.
No, okay. Just putting it down there. I hope it's SmackDown too. I don't care. All right, well, I'll agree with you on that because no, not on Raw. So I'm gonna say this with you: if she's on SmackDown, I love to see her kick Bailey's ass. I love to see her kick Sasha's ass. Anybody, I would like to see one more final title run with her.
I've been saying that for years. Like even like during the Alexa storyline in 2017, they kept teasing the 7. She kept flashing the 7, and I'm like, you had a chance for her to tie Trish. I love Charlotte, but you had Mickie. You had a chance for Mickie to tie Trish first, and you didn't take it.
First and foremost, preach, and number two, that's the thing because that whole thing, like she's making fun of her for being old, and like I think the walker was incorporated, and I'm like, Jesus, like you have a thing where, like you mentioned, Flash in the 7, like you are invested, and you want to see Mickie James, tie the record, and again, no disrespect to Charlotte Flair, and we love her on Max Wrestling, and I say that in a very sarcastic way. I'm not that bad as Daz is, and I love you, Daz, but oh my God, with the stuff that he says, which you'll hear it on Max Wrestling on the main show. I digress. It's one of those things where you're constantly with Charlotte Flair in the main scene, and it's just like, all right. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, because she's always up in the mix. She's now the NXT Women's Champion. I'm just kind of like, all right, you gave me enough of Charlotte Flair,
I love Charlotte, but I have to agree with you. Yes.
And that's the thing. Nobody's talking. And that's the thing when people are like, oh, you're hating on Charlotte. No, I'm not. She's an amazing athletic competitor. Like,
for sure.
I first saw her in NXT. Now, did you watch the early NXTs before it became on TV and the whole nine when it was like 2013 when you got to see him live on like YouTube or whatever streaming thing? Is that most of my days of watching early NXT, like when she was with Sasha and I think Summer Rae at the time, like I remember those early days of Charlotte Flair in NXT. And I'm going to say this right now. She has come a long way since those early days.
Oh, For sure.
The Natalia matches, I mean, we'll be all there with Sasha and Becky and Bailey. Like, she's killed it. So for me, I respect the hell and I love Charlotte Flair. But it's like when you're constantly putting Charlotte Flair in my face, it's like, all right, get back to where you once belonged, Beatles style. Yes, I went there. So it's like one of those things where, for me, I was personally, now who are you rooting for? All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here because we're shooting the breeze. We're having fun with this. Who are you rooting for more, Charlotte or Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania?
So I wanted Rhea to win, but I knew Charlotte was winning. Um, so it was very hard because like I love both, but I was rooting more towards Rhea, but I knew I wanted Charlotte to win though too because like I wanted Charlotte versus Io, Charlotte versus Mia, all those. So I was very torn, but
Well, next week we're getting it. How excited are you for Charlotte and Io for next year? For next
so excited. Oh my goodness. I this is like a literal dream matchup besides Mickey and Charlotte, obviously. Charlotte and Io, like the moonsault face off is gonna be epic.
I cannot wait as well for the Moonsault face-off. We also have Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream for the NXT title. I mean, NXT killing it. Same with AEW, and I mentioned AEW, Matt Hardy and Damascus. From what you've seen on Twitter, which is totally fine because I'll be honest with you, a lot of us have our Twitter highlights because, again, people, real life, we all got to do our things, and social media helps in this time period. So I got to say to you, what do you think about Matt Hardy as Damascus, what they're doing with Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle, the Bubbly Bunch, and stuff that you've seen on AEW? Have you been enjoying what they've been putting on?
I have, and Chris Jericho just like I've said this before, Chris Jericho always reinvents himself. He's one of those few like true talents in the wrestling business who can just reinvent himself, and everything he does is amazing.
I agreed wholeheartedly, and I look forward to seeing more on excuse me, with AEW. Now, speaking of AEW, I got to give you a shout out, man. Danny Jordan.
Yeah, she was great.
People, go back and listen to Ella's interview with Danny Jordan. It's a great in-depth interview. We're going to talk about the podcast in a second here, but I want to talk to you about Money in the Bank. Show it what you think. I got Money in the Bank. My boy Cypher will appreciate that. That's from SmackDown versus Raw 2007. We got to talk about Money in the Bank. So as of right now, the matches that are announced, it is a fatal four-way for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The New Day, John Morrison and The Miz, the Forgotten Sons, and the Lucha House Party. Gee, Ella,
I
who are
wonder
you
who I'm
for
rooting
this one?
for.
Yeah,
I don't know. Ms. and Morrison, duh.
yeah,
They
okay.
shouldn't have lost the titles in the first place, but I get why they did, but you know.
Love this girl. All right, you're making me laugh again. Oh my goodness, the Forgotten Sons. What do you think about them bringing them brought up? I mean, Buddy Murphy, the former tag team partner of Wesley Blake. Wesley Blake's in here. Jackson Riker, the former gunner in TNA, and Steve Cutler. What do you think about the Forgotten Sons?
So I actually saw the Forgotten Sons back in January when they were here for an NXT live event, and they get themselves over as heels. They make me not like them. So they're doing their job, I guess.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The Forgotten Sons, you know what it is? Like, I've seen Steve Cutler do a lot of enhancement talent matches on NXT. Jackson Riker, do you remember the gunner run in TNA?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was talking to my friend the other day, and because we have an inside joke about Jackson Riker that I'm not going to repeat, but I Googled him and then I realized he was Gunner, and I'm like, what?
All right, don't repeat it on air. Don't repeat it on air.
Oh, man.
Tell me off air. Save it for off air.
Okay.
All right. I'm getting really curious now. What exactly that is? Oh man.
Oh,
Anyway,
so
I'm gonna
funny.
move on. I'm gonna move on. Uh, Bailey and Tamina for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Like for me, I remember seeing her go against Beth for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think back in 2012. I don't think Tamina has had an actual one-on-one matchup for her women's championship in like that long. I know she's been involved and invested in the title picture, but I mean, this is her first one-on-one in a long time, Bailey and Tamina. I'm going to say right now it's going to be Bailey to progress what they got going on with her and Sasha. But are you looking forward to the match?
I am. I think if their goal is to progress the storyline with Sasha and Bailey, I think all for it. I'm interested to see how Sasha may be involved. But I think I see Bailey going over too as well.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the. Oh my goodness, I just lost my place. There we are. Sorry. Money in the Bank ladder match, the women's match, which is all full, and then we'll get to the men's. Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, Carmella. I gotta go either Asuka or Shayna Baszler. For me, you know what it is? My other three are, I know, I can hear you. Asuka, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax, but I'm going to tell you who I hope wins. I want to see Lacey Evans finally, get some, or just do, because I love Lacey Evans, but I think it's going to be either Asuka, Shayna, or Nia. Who you got for that?
It's funny because I saw a thing on Twitter the other day that all the Raw women on this match are all heels and all the SmackDown ladies are faces. And I'm like, are you kidding me? um, Obviously, I think my pick is Lacey as well, actually. I would love for Mella to win again, but she hasn't been like a focal point of SmackDown in a while. But then again, it could be a great surprise. But I don't know if Lacey won, what would they do? I want Lacey to win, but I think it's going to be Shayna, and Shayna's going to dethrone Becky finally, as much as I hate to say it. I see Shayna winning this one.
By the way, don't even worry about your your negativity towards Shayna. I'll be honest with you. Again, it goes back to they're doing their job as heels. But let me be honest with you. My mom hates Shayna Baszler with a passion, so it's one of the funniest things. My mom just gets all cringe every time Shayna Baszler comes on the TV. So don't even worry about it. But for me, you know what it is about Shayna Baszler too, because like the MMA four horsewomen, right? Like we should have gotten, if you remember Mae Young Classic, we should have gotten a four horsewoman versus four horsewomen type of match, but we never got
I
it.
know.
And that's why it pisses me off. Like for me, like Shayna Baszler, when she was in Invicta along with Jessamine Duke, the MMA careers, and then they transcended into the WWE with NXT, along with Marina Shafir. It's one of those things where it's just like I would have loved to see that match, but we never got it. Shayna's run as NXT Women's Champion twice, and it's one of those things, man, twice, Becky Lynch style, twice. It's one of those things where she didn't run at WrestleMania, so I think she's finally going to get the knock on Becky Lynch. I agree with you on there, but yeah, I'm thinking it's Shayna. If it's Nia Jax, I'm gonna be pissed. I'll be honest with you, because I mean I know where I'm going with this. You saw the Kyrie
Yeah.
spot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be pissed if it's Nia Jax. That's all I'm saying. We'll move on. Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, King Corbin, Otis, and one final member, because Apollo Crews, the injury angle there that we're going there, hurt his knee in the match with Andrade for the U.S. title. So there's one spot remaining, and we're gonna find out tomorrow on Raw who wins in the last chance qualifying match for the Money in the Bank. Excuse me. Now for me, I think the rumors that are going around is that the final spot's going to be the returning Jinder Mahal. What do you think about the men's Money in the Bank?
So I heard that rumor too, and I was looking up predictions, and they were predicting that whoever Apollo's replacement is gonna win the match. And I think they could set up Drew versus Apollo, Oh, not sorry, Drew versus Jinder. I think Jinder might actually have a chance and cash in, especially it's kind of a slap in the face though, to poor Heath Slater. But I could definitely see the whole Jinder Drew route.
They're a three-man band, baby. Yes, the continuity of the three-man band. And I'll be honest with you. Want to hear something funny? So I was talking to my mom about this, and I said, well, the possibility, like we were talking about Jinder Mahal, and she goes, Jinder Mahal was in the three-man band? And because she totally forgot that Jinder Mahal was in the three-man band. She knew about Heath Slater. She knew about Drew McIntyre, but she didn't remember Jinder Mahal. So
Oh
we
my
laughed about
goodness.
that, but it's one of those things where, yes, three-man band, the continuity, them getting around, they came in around the same time, you know what I'm saying? They both
Yeah.
up the ranks. So I would love to see that. I think that would actually be a very good match. So, and yes, Jinder's a former WWE champion. So I'm right there with you on that, Miss Ella J. Then we get to, we'll do the first one. Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt for the Universal Championship. Now the continuity, the Wyatt family. I've been enjoying. Now here's the thing. Did you notice at the graphic for the matchup that we're not going to get the Fiend? It looks like we're going to get Firefly Funhouse Bray.
That is a good point. I don't know.
Well, we got Firefly Funhouse Bray when he took on The Miz. We didn't get the Fiend.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how you feel, but and a lot of people I know have said this, but for me, I'm going to agree on this. I don't think that they should have taken the title off of the Fiend and Saudi Arabia.
Oh, no, I agree with that.
Okay, so Goldberg goes in, and Roman Reigns. I don't blame him
What a
for not
waste of
doing
4 weeks.
it. Exactly. Here comes Braun Strowman in, wins the title, and I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's going to be holding it that long. I think they're going to give it back to Bray. What do you think?
the thing is, though, if you're gonna have, then again, they've done this before where someone wins the title at Mania and loses it like the next day, like the Zack Ryder thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have someone win a title at Mania, like and have a big moment, especially when it's a world title, at least let them have it like a month or something, just to like make the payoff worth it. Because then it's like, what was the point of WrestleMania then? Um,
Yeah.
but like I agree with you, Bray shouldn't have never lost it. And we should have had maybe Bray versus Braun at Mania.
Or I would have even taken Bray, the Fiend versus Roman Reigns, for God's
That's
sake. But
right.
it's one of those things where, okay, I'm going to say this right now because I like your point about, having the title a month and then losing it, right? So they could do a thing where Braun retains and then Bray Wyatt, it's not Bray Wyatt he's facing next and it's the Fiend, right? They could do something like that, but it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm leaning towards Bray winning it back, but I mean, I agree with you on that. It's a tough one. It makes me get frustrated. It makes me go grr. Things that make you go and things that make you go grr. That makes me go grr. I'm angry. Now we get to the WWE Championship matchup. The Messiah, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Right after Drew beats Brock in the Big Show, now we got Seth Rollins back in the title mix. What are your thoughts? And I'm actually going to say Drew is going to retain in this one.
I have to agree with you. Like, oh, like I said, if they have Drew lose, what was the point of him winning at WrestleMania? So I think this Seth, like, in the title picture thing is just temporary again. So I think Drew's gonna retain too.
Agreed. And man, that's your money in the bank thus far. And I have a couple of things else I want to discuss with you before we close this out. Ella J, you have been a great guest on In the Hot Seat. I look forward to doing more of these with you. And I look forward to you, Brittany, and I doing a pop culture history podcast very soon. So I got to say, first and foremost, I always appreciate your time. So thank you. And I'll reiterate this at the end. But first and foremost, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, with your Wrestling Gal podcast, man, you started from talking about the Women's Revolution, Weeks in Review. I got to talk about some of your interviews because Kelly Klein, Alicia, two are like two of your first like interviews. I'm like, those are two
Yes.
great interviews. Like Alicia, two, Kelly Klein, Tarly, Mariah May, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Kingsley and Xena Lux, which you guys can check out on the Wrestling with Wrestling YouTube page. One of Ella's favorite interviews, and I got to say this, and I'm going to encompass this about each and every one of your guests. I love each and every one that you get. I've had the pleasure of being on the show, and like I mentioned Jess, I mentioned Danny Jordan, Alexia Nicole, Brittany Savage, Ty Emery, the latest one that you have with Sierra, and I'll have you promote the podcast as well and talk about some of your guests. But for me, I love the guests that you get because, again, great talents that are on the independent scene, great talents of all facets of life that really represent women. And for me, I always love, and I got to give a shout out to him, man, Kingsley and Xena, man, from Lux. Like, I love the international talents for me because I appreciate what they're doing over there in the UK. And there's a lot of great wrestlers over there I think can be incorporated.
Australia.
What'd I say?
UK.
I'm talking about other UK wrestlers. I was getting to
They're
Australia.
from Australia, the Kingsley and Xena.
I'm not talking about Kingsley and Xena.
Okay.
Representation. You corrected me. I was not even done yet, man. Bringing Kanye over here. Anyway, as I was saying, with the representation of the UK and Australia, you didn't even let me finish. Kingsley and Xena being from Australia, being the Australian talents that they are, and for me, getting to see the corporation of all talents. And I mean, you've had a lot of great interviews, and I was going to leave it at that. But Kingsley and Xena are great athletes, and I wanted to shout them out because they're amazing talents. Go right ahead.
I love Kingsley and Xena. They, besides yourself, have been like my favorite interview so far, and I'm very excited for a lot of content I have coming out and a couple interviews I have this incoming week that I've told you about, but I guess I will keep that a secret for now, but I'm really excited for this week especially too.
I can't wait. And by the way, friggin' Australia over here, I'm trying to build you up, and then you got to correct me like I don't know where they're from. But I digress. That was cool. And I had to mention the Kingsley and Xena because it is one of your best. Yeah, you know what? For me, it's hard to pick one because, like I said, each and every one of your shows, I'm invested for like however many minutes it is. Man, you have a lot of great topics and you have a lot of great information, and you do your homework, and that's what I love. I love the professionalism about the show.
Oh, for sure. I make sure to do my homework on them. I try to make it kind of like my one with Skylar, like she said it best. It's like kind of random, but like you also know your stuff. And so like I like to make it fun, but also talk wrestling and then talk some non-wrestling stuff. So yeah, I definitely always do my research on them. And that Kingsley and Xena one was like the earliest I've ever woken up for an interview yet so far, but it was so worth it. They were so awesome. It was right after they did a show, one of their shows, and it was really fun.
Now, Kingsley and Xena, where are they from?
They are from Sydney, Australia.
From Australia. Kingsley and Xena. I'm going to keep doing this because this is just too funny. Kingsley and Xena, in all seriousness, are amazing talents, amazing athletes. For me, I got to ask you, Ella J, what time did you wake up in the morning to record the show?
So Kingsley, we were messaging each other right before their match. So I woke up around 45 and then they had a live stream of their match, so I watched that to prepare for myself so I knew what time they would call me. So I watched the live stream of their match and it was probably like 8 o'clock where they were and it was about 5 a.m. where I was. And then so I think they called me around 6 after their match, a little bit after their match and after the main event. So yeah, it was around 6, but I woke up around 4:45 because I got a message right before their match. So
That's dedication, man. That's dedication. The grind, getting up early. And I was telling you, like, this girl had 3 interviews in one day. And I'm like, what do you, you know what it is too? Because people call me the podcast machine. I love it. But I think you could tell my humbleness. Like, I'm just a dude that does podcasting.
mhm.
You call me a vet, and I'm like, I appreciate that. But I'm like, I'm just a podcaster, man. I just enjoy what I do. I don't see myself in like a bigger light. I'm just a dude that loves what he does, giving people the platform to tell their story. And if I can help people like yourself, then it's worth it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you're like the literal podcast king, though. I've told you this. Like, I don't know how you do it, but I definitely appreciate your work.
Ah, thank you, as I do yours. And I'm one of your favorites, so that truly means a lot. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
This girl right here with the UK and Australia. My God, woman. A man's about to finish a sentence and finish his thoughts, and you just cut me like that. I'm going to remember that. I'm remember that.
Speaking of the UK, real quick though, a company that I love in the UK is wants to collaborate with me. I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but I'm so excited to work with them, and I'm so excited.
No spoilers. Let's wait. No spoilers on here.
Mhm.
Wait till we do it on Twitter. Anyway, whew, I got to say this about you, and I guess my final words is just because we're having fun, we're shooting the breeze, we're doing our thing, and just laughing and just having a good time. For me, I think you are gonna keep shining and doing your thing. I mean, you're about to be. Oh, I know you have a lot in store in the pipe works, and which you could talk about in a second. But man, you're gonna be up to 30 episodes now. How does it feel?
I'm about to be up to 35. No,
I know. I'm
actually,
talking
if I
about
do the
the
math correctly, it'll be 37 by
okay. Well,
like,
don't spoil that. But I'm talking about the one you got coming up
yeah.
is 30. So okay.
Yeah, so I'm dropping one tomorrow after I edit it. So tomorrow will be, well, at the time of recording this, tomorrow Monday will be episode 30. So it's just insane.
I can't keep up with you, man. And here's the thing: I love that you that you send me these shows, but I'm like, Ella did another one today. Okay, hey, we're up at 7 in the morning. We're up at 9 in the morning. How about 11? That's Ella J 24/7 is what that is. Ella J 24/7. Put it on a T-shirt. You got some great Teesprings over here. Your little T-shirt thing over there is doing well.
Yes, it is. It's very fun coming up with content and coming up with designs, and it's something I didn't know I'd enjoy doing, but it's kind of become addicting.
Well, it is. I think from the artistic standpoint, you get to have people wear your shirts and rock your shirts. I think that's very cool. Like I said, each and everything around the Wrestling Gal brand, if you will, is really something, man. You got something special.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Ah, you were very welcome. And you know what it is too. Like I found out about your podcast before I have you promote everything. I found it out from your girl Samir because Samir is another one that does a lot of great work on YouTube with interviews and live events that she.
And speaking of, she has an interview coming out, I think this week, of a very talented wrestler from Ring of Honor. I won't spoil who it is, but you should guys should look out for that too.
I will be checking that out, and you guys should too as well. Check out Samir. It's Samir on YouTube and Twitter. It's one of those things where like you guys are so young and the youthfulness. I'm not saying she's just a baby because this is actually serious. And
She's younger than me, dude.
what?
She's 2 years younger than me.
Stop making me feel old. As I was trying to say with that comment, again, 2 years younger than you. the youth of America, as I was, oh God, see, I'm losing my train of thought just because now you just put that on me, and I'm like, God damn it.
You're welcome.
Thanks. It's one of those things where the youth of America and the youth of just the passion that you guys have, I love it. And I look forward to seeing her next interview, and I look forward just to seeing what comes up with you with going on your 30 plus now because you're insane in the membrane with just recording, and I love the fact that you put out the content. I love your passion.
Well, thank you. It's definitely fun to do.
No problem. And now that I can keep my composure and not try to feel old and be all Mike Larkiny within the hot seat here. Mike Larkiny, there's another term for you. Ella J, please promote the Twitter, the Instagram, where everybody can follow you. And then a wrestling gal, go right ahead.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram on Twitter it's at It's Ella J and a wrestling gal on Twitter and Instagram. And then you can follow a wrestling gal podcast on Castbox, on Spotify, on Stitcher, Apple, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcast. And I have also started working with Wrestling on YouTube. The Kingsley and Xena episode is up, and there will be more coming out on the future on YouTube. Those will be posted, and I think that's it.
Hell to the yeah. That's where you can check out a wrestling gal. Check her out. Instagram, Twitter. All right, I'm going to say this right now. Have you thought about doing a Facebook page for a wrestling gal podcast?
I have actually, because I forget what app it was that wanted me to make a Facebook page and link it to it. So I have thought about it, yes, but I haven't yet.
All right. Well, when it's on there, we'll promote it as well too. So, but we got you for Twitter and Instagram. It's a great podcast, man. 29 episodes in, you get to hear a lot of great people like Kingsley and Xena, like Skylar, from Heather Monroe, from Sierra Loxton, which is the new one. We get to see Ty Emery, Brittany Savage. We get to see a lot of great talented people on that podcast. It's a great podcast. Check it out on Anchor, wherever you get your audio platforms, wherever you get your podcasting needs, if you will, your necessities. You can check it out on wrestlingwithwrestling.com. You can check it out anywhere at any time. It's a wrestling gal. Let's chat. Had to get that in one more time. But Ella J, do you have any final words for the people listening to the show?
Firstly, stop trying to take my line because you do it better than me.
You're welcome.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. And I have so much work to do this week to get all these episodes out, but it's so fun chatting with all these people. And I hope you guys really enjoy the content. And yeah, that's about it.
I got one other final thing to say, and you know what that is?
What?
Check her out June 11th at Trivia Takeover, baby!
Yeah. That is correct.
Ella J, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege. It's an honor. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening to In the Hot Seat. We'll be back in the next episode.